Hey guys, welcome to the notes for order of operations. This is unit 1A. So before we begin Algebra 1, we need to review some things that we learned in middle school. So let's go over the order of operations. So the order of operations is also known as PEMDAS. Oops. And I apologize, my Apple Pen is pretty loud, so if that's bothering you, I'm really sorry. So P stands for parentheses. E stands for exponents. M stands for multiplication. D stands for division. A is addition. And S is subtraction. All right, so this is the order of operations. The order of operations is helpful for us when we're simplifying expressions, okay? So the order that you want to go through is PEMDAS. You want to start with parentheses, move on to your exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. However, there's a special rule with multiplication and division. These are actually interchangeable. It depends on whichever one comes first, left to right. So whichever comes first, left to right. So in this case, I have 7 minus 2 plus 3. Oh wait, that's not the operations that we're doing. If we have 7 times 4 divided by 3, we would go whichever is first, left to right. So we would do multiplication first. We do 7 times 4 first. But if we have 7 divided by 3 times 4, you would do division first here. So it depends on whichever one comes first. All right, so for addition and subtraction, it's the same rule. Whichever comes first, left to right. Okay, and my example here would be like 5 minus 2 plus 3. You would do 5 minus 2 first because the subtraction sign comes first. So those are interchangeable. All right, let's go over our examples. So number 1, we have 2 times 3 squared plus 4. So PEMDAS says to check parentheses first. I don't have any parentheses, so I'm going to go ahead and skip that. The next step is exponents. So I notice that I do have an exponent. I have an exponent here. So 3 squared. What does 3 squared mean? Well, 3 squared means I have 3 times itself twice. So 3 squared would be 3 times 3, which is 9. And then I'll go ahead and copy everything else down. So the green part is what I did in green there. All right, and then PEMDAS says after I do exponents, I do multiplication or division first. So I notice that I do have multiplication. I have multiplication in this next step, and that's going to be 18 because it's 2 times 9. And then my last step here is to add, which is 18 plus 4, and that's going to give me 22. So this has simplified to 22. Moving on to number 2, PEMDAS says to do parentheses first. So I'll check inside my parentheses. So in here, I have 13 minus 6. Well, that means that I'm going to do that first. So 13 minus 6 is going to give me 7. And then I'll go ahead and copy everything else down. And then, remember, I just want to remind you that the parentheses also does mean multiplication. So since there's nothing left inside my parentheses, I'm just going to leave them there as like a multiplication sign kind of thing. All right, and then 2/3. So 2 to the power of 3 means I have 2 times itself 3 times. So 2 times 2 times 2. And that's going to be 8. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and copy down everything else. Okay, next step, after I've done parentheses and exponents, now I have to do multiplication or division. And I notice that I do have 7 times 7. And 7 times 7 is 49. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and highlight that in green to help you with the color coding there. And I'll erase that and make that black. Okay, and then 49 plus 8, I believe is 57. And I hate that it's in a different color, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to pink. 57. All right. So those are the first two. Number 3, we have 27 divided by 3 squared times 2 minus 3. So it is getting pretty long. All right, let's go through PEMDAS. Parentheses, I don't have any. Exponents. All right, I have one exponent. I have this exponent right here. 3 squared means 3 times itself twice. That's going to give me 9. And then I'll go ahead and copy down everything else the way I see it. All right. Now, I see multiplication, division, and subtraction. But PEMDAS says after parentheses and exponents, I do either multiplication or division. But what? What's their special rule? It's whichever comes first, left to right. So, because my division sign comes before my multiplication sign, I'm going to do that first. So, 27 divided by 9 is going to give me 3. And then I have times 2 minus 3. And then I have 3 times 2 minus 3. So I had to do multiplication before subtraction. So 3 times 2, which is 6. And then I have, sorry, I like to change colors. So 6 minus 3. And 6 minus 3 would give me 3. All right, so that's number 3. All right, number 4. Again, same thing. Upper order of operations says to do parentheses first. So I have in my parentheses 3 plus 9. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. 3 plus 9 gives me 12. And then I still have the 4 squared on the outside. Well, the 4 squared is being multiplied to 12. However, I have an exponent. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. So I notice I have an exponent, so I can do that. So 4 squared is going to be 16, not 8. Remember, it's 4 to the power of 2. That means 4 2 times. So I have 4 times 4. All right, and then lastly, I have 16 times 12, and that gives me 192. All right, so those are the first 4 examples that we have. Moving on to number 5, we have 36 divided by 10 over 4. So here, what do I notice? It's a fraction, right? And fractions have how many parts? They have 2 parts. There's a numerator, and then there's a denominator. For ease sake, we're going to call it top and bottom, but it is numerator and denominator. All right, so in the numerator, or in the top, I notice that there's only a 36, and there's not much I can do to simplify that. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that as is. So when you see fractions, you want to tackle them one part at a time. So do the top and then the bottom. Well, in the denominator, I see that I have 10 minus 4, and I know I can simplify that. I know that 10 minus 4 is going to be 6. So I'm going to go ahead and write a 6 there. Okay, and now I'm going to simplify this. Well, what's 36 divided by 6, right? It's 6. So I've simplified it, and now I have 6. All right, number 6. I keep saying 6 so many times. All right, so we have 2 times 8 minus 5 to the power of 2. All right, PEMDAS still says to do parentheses first, and I do see parentheses. So I have 8 minus 5, and that's going to give me 3. And then I'll copy everything else down. And then I have exponents, which is next in the steps. So I have 3 squared, and that's going to give me 9, because 3 squared is 9. And I'll go ahead and actually make this 2 still black, because we haven't messed with it yet. So 3 squared would be 9. And then lastly, we have 2 times 9, which is 18. All right. So these are all the same, right? We're just simplifying, going through PEMDAS. So number 7 looks a little scary because we have parentheses and we have a fraction. But again, you're going to always treat it the same. So PEMDAS says to do parentheses first. So just for a moment, I'm going to forget about what's on the outside of my parentheses and just look on the inside of my parentheses. Inside my parentheses, I have 12 minus 6 divided by 2 times 3. And I'm going to split it up. Remember, if you see fractions, you're going to split it up. So in the numerator, I have 12 minus 6, and I know I can simplify that to 6, because 12 minus 6 is 6. And I also know that 2 times 3 in the denominator is 6. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify that as well. And I'll go ahead and keep that in parentheses. All right, now I'm going to bring those 2 back. So I have my 4, and I have my minus 2. Well, in my parentheses, I have 6 divided by 6. Could I simplify that? Yeah, what is 6 divided by 6? It's 1. It's one whole number. So actually, I'll do it in purple so that we can keep everything constant. So there we go. And then we have this. All right, now I still have parentheses, and I know after PEMDAS, after parentheses and exponents, I have to go to multiplication or division. Well, there's parentheses, so there's multiplication going on, right? So 4 times 1 is going to give me 4, and then I have the minus 2, and then 4 minus 2 is going to be 2. All right, moving on to number 8, we have 5 times 4 minus 2 to the power of 2. So PEMDAS, inside parentheses. Inside of my parentheses, I have 4 minus 2. So 4 minus 2 is going to be 2, and then I'll copy everything else down. So if you haven't noticed, 8 and 6 are very similar to each other, very similar. So if you want to, you can look back and try to do this one on your own. If you want to pause the video, up to you. But you should always be taking notes. So if you are watching this video, you should be taking notes at the same time. All right, after parentheses, I do exponents. So I see an exponent, and it is 2 to the power of 2. So that's my exponent there. And 2 to the power of 2 is 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. And then I still have the parentheses outside of that. Oh, I just erased everything. So 2 times 2 is 4. You guys are like, why are you using so many colors? I'm trying to color code so that you can kind of see like where I'm going with my thought process here. And then lastly, I have 5 times 4, which is 20. So I've simplified that down to 20. All right, we're down to our last 2 problems. So 9 looks a little scary, right? Because it's really long, but it's not that bad. So I'm going to go ahead and tackle this one side at a time. So I'm just going to pretend like this isn't here, and I'm going to do the left side first. I have 6 plus 4 divided by 2. And this is all in parentheses, so I'm going to do this all. But if I look at PEMDAS correctly, PEMDAS tells me to do multiplication and division before I do adding or subtracting. So I want to go ahead and do 4 divided by 2 before I add 6 and 4 together, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and highlight these so that you know what I'm doing. So I'm going to do 4 divided by 2, and that's going to give me 2, right? So I still have the plus sign, it's still the 6. And then I have 6 plus 2, and that's going to give me 8. And then I still have the multiplication sign that's in between them. And I'm going to go ahead and erase this side so I can look at it because I finished simplifying the left-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and finish simplifying the right-hand side. Well, here I have just subtraction and addition. And I know that it doesn't matter the order as long as I go from left to right. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract first. So 8 minus 2, that's going to be 6. Sorry, I don't know why that took me so long. My bad. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy everything else down. And if you wanted to, you could leave the parentheses on that one. It doesn't really matter, but I left them off. All right, and then 6 plus 3 would be 9. So I have 9 in there. Okay, so I have 8 on one side and 9 on the other side. And the last step I have is to multiply. And it says 8 times 9, and that's going to be 72. All right, last one. 6 plus 3 plus 7 minus 5 times 3. Okay, that's pretty long. And if you want to try it on, you can, so that'd be good. But we're going to go ahead and continue what we're doing. We're going to follow PEMDAS. So P. P stands for parentheses. I'm going to do what's in the parentheses first. In the parentheses, I have 3 plus 7, and that's going to give me 10. And then I'll copy everything else down in black here. Okay, and now I have 6 plus 10 minus 5 times 3. Well, PEMDAS tells me after parentheses, and if I don't have any exponents, to go on to multiplication and division. Well, I do see some multiplication, and I see the negative 5 times 3. Now, I know you're like, well, that's a minus sign. Minus signs and negative signs are technically the same thing. So it's like negative 5 times 3. And that would be negative 15. And then I would just copy everything else down. All right, now I have 6 plus 10 minus 15. And you're like, wait, you just said negative. I did, right? So minus and negative are the same. So we have 6 plus 10 minus 15. And then PEMDAS says to do adding and subtracting next, and it's whatever's come first, left to right. So 6 plus 10 is 16. And then 16 minus 15 is 1. All right, so those are the notes for order of operations. If you have any questions, feel free to come in and see me.